Alright. I swear there's a halfling girl that I wanted to chat with, but I don't know where she is. Well, that's the recipe that I bought and then immediately received for free. I'm not bitter, you're bitter. Did I already talk to you, Woljif? What do you think of my new powers? Woljif pauses to think, rubbing his chin. You mean what you did back there? I have a few ideas. We can send you to Pitak's underground arena to fight. Give you a scary name like Swift Sting or something like that. Give you a great cover story. Enemies burn down your house. You're avenging your dead family. The public eats that stuff up. You'll wear a shiny, eye-catching outfit. Or a black one if you like that better. We'll split the prize money 60-40. 60 for me, of course. You know, arranging fights isn't easy. Those people are tough. I'll be taking more risks than you. And after we set up in Patak's, we'll tour different cities, making some real money. What? You don't like the sound of that? Any other suggestions, my boy? Woljif grins, his yellow eyes lighting up. I got one. Have you heard of Razmirin? It's some land in the River Kingdoms ruled by King Razmir. A friend of mine used to live in Razmirin. He got out of there as fast as he could. Long story short, King Razmir of theirs is a god. He keeps his people under his heel. They're all terrified of what he might do. He sits on the throne wearing some white mask, giving power to anyone. Come take power from me, he says, so long as you believe in me. Woljif quickly checks that no one is eavesdropping. But that friend of mine, the one who fled, has half-sister on his old man's side, who's a cook in the castle, and a washerwoman who the cook plays cards with. In my evenings told her a juicy rumor. My cousin of my brother of my aunt once said. Word is, Razmir isn't a real god at all, so he's got no powers. So, here's my point. You do have powers. Pretty scary ones, too. We'll find some shabby little kingdom. I'll start some rumors. You'll show off a few tricks to wow the locals, and that's it. We'll make you a deity. But first, I want you to put it in writing that I'll be your chief advisor. I'm not doing anything just on the nod. I've been there. People promise you mountains of gold, and then when it comes to it, they're all, get lost, or I'll set the dogs on you. So, do you like the idea? It's a great idea. Hell yeah, man. Woljif rubs his hands, pleased. I'm gonna make you such a legend you'll love it. A survivor in Canabras becomes a god. We'll make you a cult that'll put Iomedes to shame. In the meantime, you can think about what... one of your coins and my insurance. Don't forget to write the declaration making me your chief advisor. God, I love Woljif. So good. So are you all dialogued? Oh. Greetings. A neat smile on Camilla's lips disappears so quickly you almost wonder if you imagined it. What do you think of my powers? Camilla shrugs nonchalantly. People of noble descent grow accustomed to ample opportunity. The powers I received from you are useful, but I see no point in treating them with excessive piety. Her I like less.
Let's move.
Who are you again, Hillor? Oh, yeah, you're the Pathfinder bro. Oh, do you know anything about a Pathfinder named Phineas Dismar? Whoops, a chin. Let me think. Dismar. I've heard that name before. Of course you have. I'm a Pathfinder too. So, now you are the commander in these lands? What about Lady Ari? When I left for the wound, she had just taken up the position. Hillary examines the talking weapon and chuckles sadly. I'm afraid Ari perished during the Third Crusade. Yes, now I remember. Phineas Dismar went missing in the wound at the end of the Second Crusade. His name had been on the list of the fallen for a while. Here I am, alive and well. Write in your list that I'm back, and soon I'll file a detailed report about everything that happened to me. Phineas' voice is full of joy. I knew it was a misunderstanding, but now everything will return to normal. I'll need to write my folks. They'll probably think I'm dead, too. Hiller shakes his head sadly. Poor lad. But such is the fate of a Pathfinder. We face the unknown, but sometime the unknown wins, and our mind cannot take it. Which influential crusaders did you save from the Spinner of Nightmares? I've been hunting the Spinner of Nightmares for over a year. My agents, by that time I created a proper network, reported to me that she'd returned to Narrow Cyan. I immediately suspected that she was planning a great atrocity. By that time, I learned all too well that the Spinner was a master of illusions and charms. That's why I never left the house without this. Hitler takes a monocle from his pocket and puts it on carefully. This is the Eye of Truth. It allows me to see through illusions. My friend got it from the priests of Nethys. However, neither this monocle nor my network of agents were adequate to prevent the attacks, and we were nearly too late. The Spinner of Nightmares decided to strike at the Cruciform Cathedral. They had gathered to celebrate the victory of the First Crusade. It was a great holiday, and there was a lavish ceremony at the cathedral. An influential priest, Anthoclitus, yes, Anthoclitus, was in charge of the festivities. They were intending to crown him with a tiara, a symbol of his high status, but the sacred tiara had been replaced. The Spinner had obtained all. It sounds like some terrible, like, 90s kids movie, like, oh, but we're gonna replace the tiara with something. Actually, isn't that a plot in one, like, a 90s movie, like Ella Enchanted, where literally the king's cousin tries to kill the king with a poison crown? A sentient and rather ominous cephalopod from the other end of the world. She raised it from an elver and trained it carefully, and she cast an illusion on it so that everyone would see it as a tiara. The moment its shell was placed on Anthoclitus' head, the cephalopod would release its tentacles and penetrate the priest's skull. Its poison would seep into his brain, and it would seize control over Anthoclitus' dead body. Fortunately, we were able to stop this madness in time. I spotted the Spinner of Nightmares in her crowd, chased her down, and we ended up crossing swords on the roof of the cathedral. I nearly defeated her, but she fled upon a giant stallion, which is able to run across the air as if it were on ground. Damn! Why aren't we playing this story? Like, this sounds dope! I was so close to catching her. She suffered a setback, but I let her escape. Hitler's bitter and angry smile shows he hasn't made peace with his failure. Tell me about your confrontation with the Spinner of Nightmares. Oh, okay, it's just the ones I've already talked to him about. Okay. I don't know where that little elf is. So I've talked to everyone about the powers. Maybe it's this one. If it's not this one, I'll just head out of camp. Oh, there she is. Knight Commander, how can I help? There's just so much I can do. Just ask. Nero looks at you with eyes filled with enthusiasm. She's holding a notebook and a traveler's inkwell. You probably heard about the wound I had, the one that sometimes opens on my chest. Can you perhaps tell me if this is some kind of demonic curse? Yes, indeed. I've been told of your affliction. Nero appears at the center of your chest. Can you will the wound to open? No? That's a shame. What can you tell me about this wound? Well, it's difficult to say. I know of blades that leave never-healing cuts, of poisons that stop wounds from healing. I've heard of witches' curses that are rewarded with eternal wounds, but wounds that seem to reopen and heal over. Perhaps you know of other cases like this. Let me think. In 4671, a Mendivian army corporal had all his bones and cartilage turned into glass. In 4700, a scribe in Canabras had all of her skin simply come away like she'd been boiled. And in 1438... Oh! You don't happen to have insects crawling over you. Locusts? No? Rats, perhaps? Too bad. Nero looks at you with genuine regret. Do you think it's dangerous? It most likely is dangerous, but you are under the protection of Iomade, Commander. She granted you mythic power, as they say. Surely the Inheritor would not leave you to face this alone. Have you, perhaps, noticed that the wound opens at moments when you waver in your faith? Perhaps it's triggered by doubt. Frowning, Nero looks at you with sincere concern. Thank you for your answers. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you anything useful. I'll be sure to study this matter and consult a few of my encyclopedias. Tell me about yourself. Oh my, I can tell you so many amazing things, and you choose the most boring one of all. But, alright, about myself then. Where are you from? Isger. A small piece of land that proudly calls itself a country, though it hasn't been independent for a single day in all the centuries it's existed. They have a lot of national pride, but it's all borrowed. Always looking to the great day when they can at last be free from the rule of chiliacs. Sounds like a laxative. You like that, honey? Because Gary loved talking politics. If two of them start bargaining over beats at a market, you can be sure they'll end up arguing about whether the independent Isger will be a monarchy or a republic. I've always found it funny to listen to, and a little disgusting. You see, there are a lot of us halflings in the country, but very few are citizens. Most are slaves. I was lucky. I've always been clever ever since I was little, so they sent me to school instead of making me do the grunt work. They taught me to count and write, and I was sold as a secretary to Lord Axelar Tresbot. Lord Axelar Tresbot. What a name. He's the one I left Isger with. Never to return, I hope. How did you come to serve Queen Galfrey? I was a slave of Lord Axelar Tresbot in Isger, my homeland. Oh, what a man he was. He towered over his fellows like a rock over a garbage heap. A true hero. He bought me as a simple secretary, but he made me learn the history of the Whirlwind. All of it, one volume after another. He hired tutors for me, even sent me to meet prominent historians. He didn't want a simple slave, but a slave with an impeccable education. Lord Tresbot was going on a crusade. He firmly believed the servants of the good gods were weak, and only a follower of Asmodeus could stand against the demon invasion. He took me along as a secretary, a historian, and most importantly, he entrusted me with recording his glorious journey for future generations. In his crusade, Lord Tresbot performed many brave feats, but even he could not stand against the Whirlwind alone. In his final battle with the demons, when my lord realized he was doomed, his final act was to cover my retreat, so I could tell the world of his great deeds. Some people have said what he did was not heroic, just an arrogant moron puffing himself up one last time. But I say, curse their tongues. My difficult journey ended in Meddev, where I found my freedom. There I published Lord Tresbot's biography, and I don't want to boast, but who am I kidding? Of course I do! The book sold in great numbers. It made me rather famous for a time. That's what brought me to the Queen's attention. She invited me to her court. After all, she was curious about my deceased lord, and she was in great need of an expert on the history of the Whirlwind. I hope you find me useful as well. So, you're not just a historian, but a writer too. Will you write a book about my crusade? Why not? As soon as we finish off the demons, I'll get right to it. Just take care that you don't end up like Lord Tresbot. Do you worship any deity? Do you like God? Have I told you the good word today? She makes a wry face. When I was a slave in Isger, they would beat me with a stick to force me into believing in Asmodeus. They hit me and said it was for my own good. Ever since then, I don't like temples. I realize there are different gods, like Desna or Caden, who teach goodness and freedom, but it's just... As soon as I smell frankincense, I see the slave driver's stick. Maybe one day I'll be able to turn to a deity without cringing from a blow for not being reverent enough. But for now I'll let others pray for me. Nura's smile trembles and collapses. Nura sounds sincere, but you feel she's holding something back. Okay. I guess I'll find out about that later, that she's nervous about holding something back. Tell me the history of the Whirlwind. Oh, I can talk about that for hours. What exactly do you want to know? Tell me about old Sarkoris. It was an unforgiving country, inhabited by numerous tribes of Kelid barbarians. Imagine Numeria, but without the Metal Mountains or the realm of the Mammoth Lords, but with a milder climate. That's Sarkoris. The country was ruled by priests of forgotten deities and shamans. It's said even back then, before the Whirlwind, the boundary between worlds was especially thin in this region. Since ancient times, Discari has had his claws sunk deep into the minds of the locals. His cults thrived here for centuries. Arden tried to stamp them out, but in the end, of course, he passed away. How'd the Whirlwind come to be? It happened the year Arden died, 4606, a little over a century ago. No one knows if the timing was coincidental, or there was some connection with Arden's death, but I'll tell you what I know. The priests and shamans who ruled Sarkoris hated arcane magic, and all who practiced it. Wizards and sorcerers were driven from the land, or worse. One of their prisons held a witch named Arelu Voresh. We know nothing about her besides her name, and, of course, the atrocity she committed. By some unknown method, she managed to harness the terrible power of the demon lord Discari. Together, they tore open the barrier between worlds, opening a rift into the abyss in the very middle of Sarkoris. The world womb was slowly but mercilessly expanded, devouring more and more land. In a matter of years, Sarkoris was a memory. After a moment of silence, Nura adds softly, "Sometimes I think, what did they do to Aurelu in that prison? Just imagine. She was ready to give herself to the abyss. If only the demons might devour her torturers along with her. To imagine such hatred, it terrifies me." Tell me about this first crusade. It began in 4622. Yes, it took the church and the secular authorities nearly 2 decades and hundreds of thousands of lives before they decided to take action. In the meantime, Sarkoris was only supported by a handful of volunteers. By the time the crusade began, the demons had already invaded Mendev. The Crusaders pushed... Ooh. Chair bounced back. The Crusaders pushed them back, in what must have seemed a total triumph at the time, the forces of good easily crushing the demons all on all fronts. They erected Dresden on the lands they conquered, an indestructible fortress and the capital of the Crusader movement. In 4630, 8 years after it began, the First Crusade was declared victorious. It was the first triumph of the Crusaders, and, unfortunately, the last. What about the Second Crusade? In 4638, the war wound suddenly started expanding and a new wave of demons appeared. The Crusaders were all but delighted. Last time they routed the forces of the Abyss and they welcomed another chance to prove themselves. But this time, everything was different. Instead of scattered gangs, they faced a large and organized army. Dresden was besieged, and the Crusaders lost all the lands they won back before. They had to retreat, and all that remained of Sarkoris was left to the demons. But while the monsters were devouring the unprotected lands, the Crusaders erected a chain of wardstones along the border of the world wound. We have Iomade and her herald to thank for their help. It was the Second Crusade's only victory, but it halted the world wound's growth. The catastrophe had become a stalemate, at the cost of tremendous sacrifice. Tell me about the Third Crusade, then. About 50 years after the opening of the world wound, Discari found an ally. Baphomet entered the war, a cunning, insidious demon lord who prefers deception to open conquest. He set his enemies against each other and lures the virtuous into the path of wickedness. Traitors appeared among the Crusaders, secret agents of his cult. For a time, no one suspected a thing, even as they watched helplessly as the Crusader movement fell to ruin. Where once valor proudly stood, now greed and dumb cruelty reigned, and outrage was drowned in apathy. In 4665, the church announced a new crusade, hoping to boost morale. They didn't succeed, to put it mildly. Some fought the demons in earnest, and for a time they even dared to hope to retake Dresden. But the Third Crusade would be remembered as a witch hunt in every sense. Inquisitors hoped to purge any cultists from the ranks of fighters, but instead they got a barrage of denunciations, widespread suspicion, and innocent victims. It sometimes happened that two orders would denounce each other as traitors and wipe each other out, much to the demon's delight. Just 3 years later, in 4668, the church put the disgrace to an end. Of all the crusades, that one was the least generous. You want me to give her a treat? Yes. Okay. The wife has decided the dog gets a treat, and I am to be the one to give it. Do you want a treat? Do you want a treat? Can you speak? Good girl. What a good pup. And now, on to the Fourth Crusade. Of course, the demons had no intention of sitting quietly caged behind the wardstones. They kept attacking Canabras, trying to reach the stone and destroy it, or just scratch its surface, or, if even that wasn't possible, to befoul it. The Crusaders drove the demons away from the city again and again. The Fourth Crusade would last for 15 years, an exhausting study in potential warfare. The demons attacked, and they were pushed back. The Crusaders went on the offensive, but were forced to retreat. And all the while, the losses were tremendous. The Fourth Crusade's only achievement was that they didn't let a single wardstone fall. They didn't retake a sliver of land, to say nothing of Dresden. So many lives, just to maintain the stalemate. Can you imagine how that affected morale? Damn, that was a good story. Wow, I love the stories in this game. They're so good. Alright. We're heading out of camp now. Oh, who are you? Oh, you're just a recruit. We're all exhausted? Oh. Where's a tent to rest in? Do I rest in the... in here? I was all excited to get going on the road, and now I gotta rest. Ah, yes. It's sleep time.
Are all cities on the surface as huge as this? In Canabres, our tribe would be like a drop in the ocean. It's hard to even picture what Neurosian must be like.
Neurosian.
How simple it is to astonish a cave dweller. I suppose you even sleep with your nose pressed against the ground. So terrified are you of the sky and the horizon? I'm right, aren't I?
Dick. Okay. I can go straight to the area exit from here. That's nice. Let's try him out. I don't know if he's going to be any good, but at least give him a shot. That's a cemetery. Let's head back to Canabres, see if there's anything here. Oh, I need to choose his mythic. Oh, okay. Nothing new here. But the gates are new, so we're gonna pop in there, see what's going on. Oh. Well, don't I feel a little dumb? Is there a way to... scroll out? That's where I need to go, Dresden. Oh god, I have no idea what's going on. Oh, they really just didn't give you any tutorial on this, huh? Let's go for the Baroness, sure. Got clerics, got archers. Okay. I have no idea what's going on. Am I buying the units or am I upgrading them? This feels almost like Might and Magic, but without any tutorial. Okay, that's the bottom of the map. Well, at least let's go here. Wait. Let's do the side quest first. Or not. I can't decide anything, apparently. Oh, that's where we're bivouacked. Gotcha. Path location is unknown. Okay. Oh no, I found the path to location. An elderly man limps toward a grave and clumsily throws a handful of soil inside. How unfair. They were all so young. They had their whole lives ahead of them. They sacrificed themselves, and an old cripple like me still lives. An elven woman with her face bathed in tears steps up to the grave. She whispers, "The painting, it burned like everything else in the house. There's nothing left for me to remember you by. Nothing." A young man throws a handful of soil into the open grave and stands beside it for a while, lost in thought. Finally, he sighs and steps back. Sosiel throws a handful of soil into the grave in front of him. He takes a breath and prepares to speak, but it seems that he simply cannot find the right words. The cleric wipes his tear-filled eyes, gathers his resolve, and says in a gentle voice, "I wish you a warm welcome in Shaylin's realm. We will win this war, I swear to you. We'll banish this ugliness and evil, make the world richer, and let peace bloom in it. We'll make sure anything like this... He breaks into sobs mid-sentence, then falls silent without finishing his declaration. Thank you for everything you've done for us. Sosiel is too absorbed in his grief to hear you, but the other mourners nod in approval, wiping their teary eyes. They were good people. I can't believe they're gone. What is that? An elven woman shrieks in horror, disrupting the atmosphere of silent mourning. Her trembling hand points at something moving inside a grave. Suddenly, a corpse climbs out of the ground, wafting a horrible stench from its rotting body. It's a zombie! Run! Is it a zombie or a ghoul? Oh my god. That's a lot of zombies. They just pop out of the ground like daisies! Am I on turn-based? I am.
You've crossed the wrong
Definitely don't need to be on turn-based. Whoa! Okay, you go there. Nenyo. Okay. Whew. Okay, Soulseal, what even do you have? You have a glaive and nothing equipped. Okay, maybe... What, 2 spell slots? Why do you have more spell slots of level... There'd just be a lot of zombies, huh? Nenyo, can we just, like, have you go over here? Sela... Why don't you channel? Woljif... Why don't you grease? Wish I could just set you to auto-use your abilities.
You won't survive me.
I don't think I need to rage. With a heavy heart, Soulseal looks at the corpses of his friends, returned to rest by his own hands. What is this twisted mockery? Who could possibly... Wait. What's this? He bends down and recovers something from the ground. Take a look at this. Soulseal hands off a black onyx gem to you. Once precious, the stone is now covered in cracks, falling apart in your grip as you examine the engraved Minotaur's head, the unholy symbol of Baphomet. The cleric's voice, perplexed at first, fills with rage as he speaks. Cultists. Simply murdering my friends was not enough for them. No, they had to come to the funeral and desecrate their graves. They will pay for everything they have done when we find them. You're right. They can't be far. We can't allow them to torture anyone else this way. Wait. The townspeople fled with the undead, not knowing that they have a traitor among them. Wherever they are, they're in great danger. We must find them.